Hi, Dr. Ben Newman. I'm a coronavirologist, and I'll try to answer your questions. Next question is from Megan. How you doing? Let's see. So it is a long question, but the question is about school. So there was a CDC report. It says today I'm looking on my other monitor back up here. I see there was one on January 29th episode of Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report that was talking about school infections in a particular school. And maybe it's that, or I don't know. The CDC are saying things about schools and whatnot all the time. So I'm not sure if I've got the exact story there. And then the question goes on. So our school only has 10 or fewer kids per classroom. That's a good thing. With their own desk, good. Separated by others by more than 6 feet, fine. And masks are a must. Good to the extent that you can get people to follow that and wear them, which is, yeah, variable. I find depending on where you are, who you got, how old they are, maybe, and just generally how receptive to doing what you tell them the students are. Yeah, and I would imagine that varies quite a bit from person to person, time to time, place to place. Let's see. However, they do have a 10 to 15-minute lunch in the classroom. Yeah, yikes. My husband and I are both teachers and have lower in-school exposure than most teachers. Fine, but have kept our kids home this year. Yeah. So we're considering sending them back and enjoy hearing your viewpoints. So all right, fine. Yeah. So what do we take from this? So looking at the MMWR report, my critiques of it as a scientist would be as follows. It looks as though they are going on reported incidents rather than incidents. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have people that are sick to a certain point, they will go to a doctor and get a test all on their own without you even having to tell them to get a test. And then if you only take those numbers and, sorry, I thought somebody was knocking. If you only take those numbers and put them in, you find a list of people who were sick enough and had the means, motive, opportunity, whatever, to go and get themselves tested. And you would miss, perhaps, other people in the family who may have gotten sick. And because the one person definitely had COVID, you just assume that, yeah, when the other person in the family gets sick with the same symptoms right after you, you say, you know what? You know what that probably is? Yeah, it's probably COVID as well. And quite often those numbers do not get reported because the only way a number gets reported is with a test. So, yeah, I think the logic here, and it comes through very clearly, I think, in that particular report, um, is that, yeah, some people get infected at school, but it's not as bad because some people get infected in other places, maybe more people. And I think that's kind of like the argument that's saying, well, sticking your finger into a sausage grinder is probably preferable to sticking your head into a stump grinder, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, objectively, you could say, yeah, that makes sense. But the other question, of course, is why do either of those things? Because yeah, there is safe, and then there is all this other stuff we're doing, and I would put this in the other stuff we're doing basket, honestly. Same thing. Yeah, is it better to hit your thumb with a hammer or run it over the tank? I guess the hammer, if those are the only two options, but I don't know why those would be the only two options. So we have seen declining numbers, particularly in some places. Texas, for what it's worth, is kind of hold and serve. We're cruising along at the worst rate Texas has ever seen. Yeah, because whatever. Other states are doing things differently or taking more precautions or whatever. People are just responding differently and the numbers are actually going down. So as a whole in the United States, yeah, the numbers are generally going down, though not if you live in, what was it, Montana, Oklahoma, Alabama, and I think there were 2 or 3 other states where the numbers are still going up. Yeah. So, fine. My opinion is still the same. I think in school, everything is a risk. I think maybe if you consider it as part of a risk budget where that is literally the only risk that your family takes, and there's no, dining at restaurants even outside, and no all the other things that you could possibly do that would lead to exposure, you might be able to get away with it, but it's still not as safe as not doing the thing. It's still preferable not to, crush your thumb or grind any part of your body, at all, I would say. Um, I think this is very much a product of where we are in time and in sort of mental space, that any other time like before this, we'd say, okay, yeah, whatever. This person has like a 1% risk of catching something and then dying from it, something like that. You want to send them in? They're your kid, but do you want to send them in? I think in those situations, everybody'd say no, definitely, definitely not. And they wouldn't be pulling out these tables of numbers and saying, no, but wait, if they're 7 years old and we're in whatever, Ohio column, and students are 10 feet apart, but they wear masks, but then they don't wear masks at lunch, but then they wear them again. Yeah. Then you use your slide rule, get to the end, you say, okay, yeah, the risk is only 0.4%. Yeah, so whatever, yeah. Not the way people normally behave with risks. Yeah, yeah, like same reason you don't keep crocodiles in your house. Yeah, looking at you, Florida. I guess no, that'd be alligators. Yeah, just you know what? There's not really a giant benefit, and there does seem to be a non-zero risk that's fairly obvious. That's just the way I see this. We'll get to a point where all this stuff is safe again. Um, the vaccine's part of it. The restrictions are part of it. And honestly, I think the hope that people are getting from the vaccines and from the numbers, which are still ridiculously high, but falling a little bit across the U.S., I think people want to see a way out. That's a good way to sort of combat COVID fatigue, is to actually see some progress. And so I'm very much hoping that progress continues, and that kind of depends on what people do and what people don't do. So we're doing okay. I would say don't mess it up. That's what I'm thinking. That's where it's coming from, and everybody's got to make this choice on their own. So there you go. You got one more little voice to put in your head, and whatever. But I hope you're well. I hope everybody in the family is well, and I hope it doesn't spread from school into the family. Okay. All right. Thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr. Ben.